Dinner at five-star resort is not merely a place to enjoy worldly delicacies, but also a miniature arena testing social rules and basic etiquette. For Daniel and Emma, educating their child is a process with no breaks. Under the sparkling crystal chandeliers and the soothing sound of jazz music, they always maintain harmony in their roles. Daniel is the embodiment of authority, the one who uses ironclad discipline to establish impassable boundaries, while Emma is the stream of empathy, the one who knows how to delve deep into psychology to help her son realize his mistakes. On the final night of their vacation, the family decided to dine at the resort's most luxurious seafood buffet. Daniel looked incredibly dapper in a dark blue linen shirt with rolled-up sleeves and gray trousers. Emma was radiant and elegant in a mustard yellow midi silk dress that showcased her slender shoulders. Leo was also handsomely dressed in a palm leaf print short-sleeved shirt and white shorts. However, behind the facade of a little gentleman, Leo's 6-year-old brain was overly stimulated by a massive space overflowing with attractive colors and smells. At 8 o'clock in the evening, the buffet restaurant was packed with guests, and waiters were rushing around carrying trays of piping hot food. While Daniel and Emma were standing at the salad bar, Leo suddenly spotted a giant chocolate fountain in the far corner of the room. Without asking for permission, the boy let go of his mother's hand, put his head down, and sprinted through the rows of dining tables, weaving through guests holding plates. Just as Leo turned a blind corner, he narrowly avoided crashing straight into a male waiter carrying a tray of boiling hot seafood soup. Witnessing that scene from a distance, Daniel's heart seemed to stop beating. A protector's intuition combined with indignation at undisciplined behavior in a public space made his blood boil. He lunged forward with long strides and grabbed Leo by the collar right before the boy could continue running. Immediately, Daniel's pupils shrank in shock. His eyebrows surged together, clenching so tightly they formed a deep, menacing furrow on his forehead. He squinted his eyes sharply, shooting a fiery glare that pinned down his son. Daniel's nostrils flared repeatedly with rapid breathing from the shock. He gritted his teeth, grinding them audibly to suppress his rage. His hands tightly gripped his son's shoulders, his own shoulders tensing rigidly under the dark blue linen shirt. "Leo! Stand right there!" Daniel growled through his teeth, his voice deep, echoing just enough to freeze the child, but without disturbing the whole restaurant. "Who allowed you to run around like it is a playground in a crowded place like this?" Leo jumped, his tiny lips quivering violently, tears welling up out of fear. He had never seen his father so terrifying in the middle of a crowd. Emma quickly stepped forward. She understood her husband's anger was meant to prevent a catastrophic boiling water burn. She placed a hand on Daniel's back, giving it a hard squeeze so he could regain his composure. "Breathe, my love. Let me explain it to him." Daniel squeezed his eyes shut, let out a long, heavy exhale, and crossed his arms, standing towering like a mountain. Emma knelt to her son's eye level. "Leo, look into my eyes," Emma said in a cold, decisive voice. "Did you see that waiter almost drop a tray of boiling soup on you? Daddy is so angry his veins are popping because your hyperactivity nearly stripped away your own safety and that of the people around you. A restaurant is where people carry knives, forks, and hot food. A child running around here is the act of a thoughtless person. Do you want to get severe burns all over your body and go to the hospital instead of eating chocolate?" Leo shook his head vigorously, sobbing, "I'm sorry. I just wanted to see the chocolate fountain." Daniel relaxed his jaw muscles, his voice authoritative. "Your punishment is that from now on, your hand must tightly hold mommy's or daddy's hand. You have lost your privilege of free movement in this restaurant." After being punished to hold his parents' hands, Leo obediently followed them to the seafood and sushi station. Under the bright lights, the boiled red shrimp and colorful sushi rolls looked incredibly appetizing. Childhood curiosity once again overrode the rules. When Emma let go of his hand for 3 seconds to grab a plate, Leo reached out. Instead of using the food tongs provided, the boy used his bare hand, which had just been gripping chairs and doorknobs, to grab a salmon sushi roll directly. Looking closely and seeing sesame seeds he did not like, Leo carelessly tossed that sushi roll back onto the communal tray, then proceeded to use his hand to grab a shrimp. Witnessing that unhygienic and highly offensive behavior, Daniel's indignation flared up again. His eyes widened in a glaring stare at the communal food plate his son's hands had just contaminated. His eyebrows surged together, etched with anger. He squinted his eyes sharply, looking straight at Leo. His nostrils flaring, Daniel stepped forward quickly, used his large hand to firmly grab Leo's wrist, yanking the boy back from the food station. "Leo, what the hell are you doing?" Daniel hissed through his teeth, his chest heaving violently. "Did you just use your filthy hands to grab the communal food meant for everyone here?" Panicking, Leo pulled his hand back, stuck his lip out, and argued, "But I accidentally grabbed the one I do not like. My hands are not dirty, Daddy." Emma stepped forward immediately, her face unable to hide her disappointment. She used the tongs to pick up the sushi roll Leo had touched and put it on her own plate so no one else would have to eat his leftovers, then turned to her son. "Leo, look at what you just did. Do you see Daddy's lips pressed tightly together in embarrassment? Your hands were just holding toys and touching so many germs out there. When you put your bare hands into a communal food plate, you spread germs to hundreds of other people in this restaurant. That is an incredibly unhygienic and selfish behavior." Emma pointed at the tongs. "Food tongs exist to respect the health of the community. When you threw the food you touched back onto the tray, you ruined the dinner of the people coming after you. Mom and Dad are teaching you to become a polite gentleman, not a wild boy grabbing other people's food with bare hands." Daniel stood tall, issuing his majestic verdict. "Your carelessness makes you unworthy of picking your own food anymore. Stand completely still right here. Mom and Dad will get the food for you, and you are only allowed to eat what is on your plate." When they returned to the table, Leo's frustration from being repeatedly scolded turned into an act of silent retaliation. To prove he was starving when Daniel got food for him, Leo kept pointing. "Daddy, get me this crab, this shrimp, a big plate of fries, and those 3 cakes too." The parents agreed to get what he requested to see how the boy would handle it. The result was that Leo's plate was piled high like a mountain. However, after only 10 minutes, Leo ate exactly 2 fries, bit a corner of a cake, and forcefully pushed the plate to the middle of the table. He leaned back in his chair, rubbing his stomach. "I'm full. I'm not eating anymore. The food here is gross." Daniel, who was cutting his steak, suddenly stopped. The sound of the knife and fork scraping against the plate created an ear-piercing screech. He looked at the mountain of discarded food, then at his son's indifferent attitude. To him, wasting food is a crime. Daniel's pupils shrank once again. He squeezed his eyes shut for a second, grinding his teeth audibly to suppress his anger. When he opened his eyes, his eyebrows surged together. He squinted his eyes sharply, shooting a gaze like a sword at his son. He pressed his lips tightly together, his hands tightly gripping his knife and fork. "Leo, pull that plate back right now," Daniel commanded, his voice deep, carrying the weight of thousands of tons of stone. "I do not permit any waste on this dining table." Leo pouted, his eyebrows furrowing. "But my tummy is really full, Daddy. Anyway, this is a buffet. You already paid for it. If I do not finish it, they just throw it away. What does it matter?" The 6-year-old's reasoning truly hurt Emma. Sight. She set her napkin on the table, looking straight into her son's eyes with a gaze squinting in deep concern. "Leo, look at me," Emma said, her voice sad but incredibly serious. "Do you see Daddy so angry that his shoulders are rigidly tensed? Daddy is angry because of your arrogance. Just because we paid for it does not mean you have the right to trample on others' labor and the lives of animals. Look at the crab and shrimp on your plate. They had to give up their lives to become your dinner, but you throw them in the trash just because you accidentally took too much." She continued, her voice hardening. "To get this food, fishermen had to float on the sea all night, facing dangerous winds and waves. Chefs had to stand in a hot kitchen for hours. When you take food indiscriminately and leave it to waste, you are cruelly insulting their labor. The rule of a buffet is take only what you can eat. Your greed through your eyes has created a meaningless mountain of garbage." His mother's thorough analysis acted like a hammer, shattering Leo's excuses. The boy looked at the mountain of food on his plate and guilt washed over him. He whispered, I'm sorry. I really cannot eat anymore." Daniel let out a sigh, dropping his knife and fork. I will not force you to eat until you throw up. But you must take responsibility for your greed. I will have this leftover food packed up, and tomorrow, you will eat exactly these things again for lunch and dinner. No new food, no chocolate, no ice cream. That is the price of waste. Leo nodded in tears, using his own hands to pull the plate of leftovers closer to him in utter remorse. The Buffy dinner concluded not so sweetly, but it was one of the most important educational milestones. Daniel and Emma proved that true love is not thoughtless indulgence, but the courage to play the villains to mold behavior. The father's authority is like a sword drawing the boundaries, while the mother's empathy is like a healing stream that enlightens awareness. Through this, Leo understood that every small action, from running footsteps, to careless hands, to wasting food, carries the weight of consciousness and responsibility to the community.